Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks so much for joining me for this IPA talk, and I'm grateful to have with me our elementary principal of the year, who was just recently announced from Lincoln Elementary in the Canton School District, KiLee Lidwell-McFerren. KiLee, did I get that right? I always ask. Did I say that correctly?
It was pretty close. It's KiLee Lidwell-McFerren.
Lidwell, sorry, my
That's
bad.
okay.
That's okay. Well, that's okay. And we could edit that out, but we'll just let that sit because nobody's perfect with all of this stuff. I can
That's
always
right.
tell, I joke with people, I can always tell when telemarketers would call the house and when I was a kid they could never get Leahy right ever. So that was super, super helpful. Well, we'll get past all of that. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, KiLee, can you just share with us a little bit about yourself, your background, what got you over time to Lincoln and the position that you're in now?
Okay. All right. I'm originally from Canton, Illinois, born and raised here. And after I graduated high school, I attended Spoon River College in town. And then I traveled to SIU Carbondale to finish my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Education.
I'm a
Um,
Saluki too. That's where I got my bachelor's
he's,
degree. That's awesome. Good for you.
yeah. And I left home for about 20 years. I taught in Pinckneyville. I taught in Normal. And then I traveled to Gibson City. That's where we were the longest. I'm married. I've got an awesome husband. He's a surgical nurse. And then we have two beautiful daughters that are in the middle school here in Canton. So um, that, kind of sums up my background. I was gone for 20 years, like I said. And then this position at Lincoln Elementary came open and somebody said, "Hey, you're an administrator, right? Have you ever thought about coming home?" And the timing was pretty perfect. So I applied for the position and was really excited at the opportunity. So we uprooted our family and we came home. And I've been here for 8 years now as the principal at Lincoln.
That's terrific. So, let's just talk about the obvious. Like, what was it like coming home? Were there still people hanging around that were around when you were a student? I mean, those are the obvious questions that always pop up. And how did that go for you?
I admit it was kind of surreal because I would walk, in the grocery store and I would see people and I'd be like, "I know who that is,"
Yeah, of
but I couldn't quite place it because when I would come home within those 20 years of being gone, I spent most of my time with my family.
course.
I and My oldest and dearest friend, she had moved away, so I really didn't have a social life, here in Canton. But it's been good to reconnect with some old friends, and my dad's here,
Yeah.
and my in-laws are here, so we spend a lot of time with them.
Awesome. Well, that's
Yeah,
great. Well, I'm glad that's obviously working out, Kylie, because
yeah.
you've been there 8 years, which is long past the average of how long school leaders are typically in positions. We'll come back to that because I definitely want to talk about that here in just a little bit. Well, talk to us about the work that you've got going on at Lincoln right now. What are you really excited about? What's happening there?
I just want to say that I'm really excited and I'm really proud of the staff here at Lincoln School. We have um, we have two grade level teachers, and we have at each grade level we're a K4 building, and then we also have four special education teachers, and it's a highly inclusive building.
Mhm.
So we just celebrate our differences and we learn from each other as a staff and as a student body. And I think that that's what really drives the work here. It's very much a family atmosphere. We've got a lot of support staff. So we've got just as many support staff members as we do certified staff members
Yeah.
because of the needs of our students. Um, it's a
So
pretty
support
amazing.
staff like social workers, counselors, some of those, and as well as paraprofessionals and
Yeah,
others.
we have over 20 paraprofessionals in our building, and we are a building of 204 students
Oh,
currently.
wow.
So
Wow. So
we
what's
have a
the
lot of
different type?
need.
No kidding. So what do you have those paraprofessionals doing?
Okay, so some paraprofessionals work one-on-one with individual students,
Sure.
and they do everything from implement, instructional tools to make sure the basic needs of those students are met, and to just make sure that they're safe when they travel throughout the building and outside. And we also have other paraprofessionals that provide instruction and intervention to groups of students. according to, their needs identified through their IEP.
Yeah, yeah. So as I'm reading up about you a little bit, KiLee, one of the things that kind of intrigued me, and because I enjoy things like this about language or things that really focus your communication or my communication. I think about that for myself. Like at IPA, for example, we've got a staff motto which is serve each other, serve educators, serve children, and then we have some service basics that come out of that. But constantly reflecting and being reminded of our core focus here of the work that we do, I think is really important. And then in this position, it gives me something to talk about continuously about who we are and what we do. And you've got, as I'm reading up about you, these 4 pillars within your organization: collaboration, problem solving, creative thinking, innovation. Kind of curious about, what those mean to you, maybe how you came up with those, and then how do you leverage those things on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Those are the 4 pillars that the administrative team here at COSC 66 identified. And so as we collaborate within our collaborative teams and go through the PLC process, those are the things that we talk about and we think about, and we want those things to live within us as professionals, but then we also want to incorporate that into the classroom. One of my favorite things that we do here at Lincoln School is we have STEAM days throughout the school year. And for example, the one that we have at Halloween, it's called Spooky STEAM. And we have high school students come. We work with the calculus students, and they help develop and facilitate the activities that students do. So we focus on STEAM activities. And then all of our students travel throughout the building for that half day, and they all get the same experience. Sometimes it's slightly different based on the activity and
Sure.
the level of the student, but we incorporate that, and it's, innovative, it's collaborative, and they use problem solving skills. And it's just one of my favorite things. We do that for Halloween. We do a Winter Wonderland STEAM day, and then we do a for the Love. And the most recent one, that for the Love, we created fleece blankets that we donated to the Fulton Mason Crisis Center. And so that's really good for our students because they get talked to about what the Fulton Mason Crisis Center is. They are part of creating those blankets, and then we give them back to the community. So it's this big cumulative project. And so, yeah, that's probably the thing that stands out to me the most for the 4 pillars, and that gets the kids excited. So
yeah, that's terrific. I sure appreciate that. Well, KiLee, as we referenced, you've been in this position 8 years now, which doubles the average that principals typically sit in a school leadership position, in a given school leadership position. One of the things that we espouse here at IPA is just the importance of that, because in order to get things done as a leader, you've got to have time in order to make things happen. There's no doubt about that. And so, what I'm curious about is, I guess this is kind of a 2-part question. What types of leadership strategies do you feel like have helped you be effective, and helped you, get things done over these 8 years and be in that role? The other is, what helps sustain you in that position, so that, you can hang through it. Because I think I've always felt like, as a leader coming into a position, you get through that first couple of years, and you're kind of the newbie. You got obviously some of the what the name for it escapes me, but you're kind of in this real period of, you haven't made any decisions that really upset people. So the honeymoon period, that's the line, that's
right.
what I was looking for. But after a couple of years, you start owning those decisions, and by then maybe you've made some people unhappy, because as leaders do, you have to tell people no, right? So I'm just kind of curious about what's helped you be effective, and what has helped keep you motivated and sustained in the role.
I would say that probably I very much believe in the staff that I work with.
Yeah.
And so we collaborate, we come together to make decisions. Ultimately, sometimes I do have to make the decision. And like you said, sometimes those aren't always popular, but that's just part of the gig. But we've got really good systems in place for that those decisions. The mindset is the things that we've developed and the amazing school that we have to make sure that that continues no matter who leaves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have no plan on leaving, but if, for some reason I did, or, someone else left, we have to have those systems in place so somebody can walk in and know this is how we do things at Lincoln School, and this is how we're the most effective. And
so could you drill down on that? Like, could you pick a system? Because I absolutely agree with everything you're saying, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I don't think people think about that enough. But since you've articulated that, do you mind sharing an example of maybe what you're talking about there?
Okay. I would say a good example is our problem solving process. So, and that ties directly to our MTSS system that's in place. And so if we have a student that is struggling and we've put interventions in place for 6 to 8 weeks and the data is not showing that that student is making adequate progress, sometimes those students are recommended for a problem solving team. It could be a reading concern. It could be math. It could be a behavior concern. And so then we come together, we have this team in place that consists of myself, the school social worker, our title reading specialist, classroom teacher, and a special education teacher, and so forth. And so we look at that data, and the parents are invited for those meetings. And we come together and we talk about that student. We talk about the interventions that we've put in place, and then the outcomes. And then we talk about alternative plans if necessary. And sometimes we decide that we need additional testing or additional services and so forth. So that's, the paperwork is there, the team's in place, and the system's in place. That way, we make sure we meet the needs of the kids.
I love that. What type of data are you looking at specifically?
Okay. We use our benchmark data from STAR and iReady. And then we also use our reading, the BAS, or reading comprehension interviews. And then we also have common formative assessments that we use.
Yeah.
And then, for students that have concerns with behavior, we sometimes do the FBA, and then we'll do the BIP. So the FBA is just to identify those behaviors that we have the biggest concern with. And then
for those that may not know, like for you, even in the education world, we sometimes use different things, different acronyms. So when you talk about for FBA, what do you mean by that?
Okay. An FBA is the functional behavior analysis. So we look at those behaviors, and we're trying to figure, with every behavior, there's a function. So there's a reason why that behavior is happening. And so we're going to gather that data. We're going to look at when is it happening, how frequently is it happening, and we're trying to determine if there's any common threads. Are there things that we can change as adults to try to prevent those behaviors from happening? And then you've got the BIP, which is the behavior intervention plan, where we develop those interventions, put those in place to try to improve that data, improve the learning environment for that student to make them more successful.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, I appreciate you just being very concrete there, talking about some of those specific systems, because I agree with you that is so important, because we have lots of great ideas, but if we don't figure out how to institutionalize them, it's a real challenge, not only for the leader today, but also most especially for those that would come and follow. And all too often, I think it's when we don't have good systems in place, that's why we see good initiatives tend to go away and aren't able to get to maturity, so to speak. So let's pivot a bit and talk about what do you feel like sustains you in that role? And I know that's a hard question, because I know, as we were talking before we started recording, I mean, whoever really feels like work-life balance in these roles, it's more like just work-life management, so more than anything else. But what keeps you in there and keeps you swinging?
I would say the people that I work with.
Yeah.
The staff that I work with, the students, everybody needs somebody to support them. Everybody needs an advocate. And I really feel like that's my purpose, is just to help our students see their potential without a group of people surrounding them and letting them know that they can accomplish great things. They won't have, without them knowing that, they won't live it. And so feel like I work with great people that help our kids know that. And I know our kids need it. So that's kind of what drives me. I also like to take lots of walks in the woods.
Nice. Excellent.
So,
So do you live close to the woods then?
yeah, well, kind of.
Yeah.
We have some family property that I spend time on. So
Good for you.
I love to walk in the woods, spend time with my family, and just the great outdoors, really. That's what brings me peace. So
Yeah.
and I see the difference that we make at Lincoln School with these kids and these families. It's not just the kids, it's the parents too. But the difference that we make, that's really truly what drives me. So
Yeah. Love that. Well, as we start to look to wrap up here, I guess I have one last question for you. If you were to be speaking to an aspiring leader or somebody who, let's say, July 1st was going to come into their first position here, obviously, you've had some real success, and it's been interesting and fun listening to some of the good things that you're doing. But what's one key piece of advice that you would share with them that you think is absolutely critical for school leaders to be considering as they're getting started?
probably just be true to yourself and don't be afraid to ask hard questions.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, over my many years in education, me asking questions maybe got misinterpreted in the past. And it was never meant as disrespectful. But for me, I truly want to understand the purpose of what I do or what I'm being asked to do. And so asking those questions are really important because you have to believe in what you're doing and what you're saying in order to get your people to come alongside you and do it together. So just ask the questions so you understand, so you can share that understanding with the people that you work with.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think about something that my wife shares with me often, which I think is not only great marital advice, but also great leadership advice, that unvoiced expectations leads to frustration. And where I make the connection of that back to what you just said here, when we as leaders ask clarifying questions, we can ask our bosses, so to speak, in the case of a principal, superintendent, or the board, very specifically, what is it that you're asking me to do? What is it that you want, so that there's not a disconnect between your expectations and what I'm perceiving as your expectations? That's when we are talking with district office about when it comes time to hire a principal, like take a look at your job description to make sure there's real clarity around what it is you want this person to do coming in. But I think on the flip side, as we as leaders are working with teachers too, like asking clarifying questions of them. Mm-hmm. What is it you're doing? What is it you are trying to communicate? What is it that I need to make sure that I'm perceiving, so that there's no disconnect there as well?
Absolutely.
And I think there's ways of approaching asking questions without it being harmful. Like, listen, I'm just asking so there's clarity, right? Because you and I both know that miscommunication is one of the things that adds to or creates a lot of conflict, or at least that's the thing that I've noticed over the years.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, KiLee, thanks so much for spending a little time with me and your insight.
Well, thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you, and I feel really honored to be part of the IPA and to receive this award. So thank you.
Well, it's well deserved, and grateful for all the work that you and your team are doing. It's always, I can always quickly tell the people that really deserve this are those that are typically trying to pass the buck to say, hey, it's really all of us that are getting this done. So true testament to you and the environment that you're creating there at Lincoln. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director here at the Illinois Principals Association, with our Elementary Principal of the Year, KiLee Lidwell, right? McFerren, I got that right this time, KiLee, who's the principal of Lincoln Elementary in Canton, Illinois. As always, if there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to to give us a call, as well as check us out on the web at ilprincipals.org. Take care.